Alright. I've been wanting to watch this video for a little while. It popped up in one of my recommends a while ago. This came out a month ago. It's by PulseEffects. The biggest cheater in Pokemon speedrun history was just caught. Alright. I love these kinds of videos. I watch them randomly when they get recommended to me, but I figured we'll watch this one together. But I love the speedrunning community, but also I feel like there's always, like, every day, every week, every month, there's a new cheater in some category of speedrunning getting caught. And it's just, it's a lot.
In the world of Pokemon
Hold on.
In the world of Pokemon speedruns, cheating is quite rare.
There we
In
go.
fact, it's been an entire decade since an actual member of the community
Oh,
attempted such a disgraceful act. The few that have popped up outside of this range have usually been
Almost
total
about
newcomers
9
that
years
have
ago?
no idea what they're doing and are just looking for some clout.
Yeah,
But
and the
thing about
cheaters are
cheater
like
we're talking about today is that they
not
went
only
in it
long
for the
time,
long
but
haul, integrating themselves in the community
are
at a
usually
very slow
well
yet believable
known.
pace at first, before eventually pushing their way to the top by crafting fake runs over the course of 11 months. And the crazy thing is, this story...
What gets me is the ones that cheat, but never get like any fame or money from it. Because there's some, of course, that have cheated throughout speedrunning history, where there was like competitions for money and shit, and got away with that for years before finally getting caught. But no one, but they still had that money or whatever. But what's the point of cheating in a speedrunning category if you aren't getting famous for it or any money? Are you just bragging rights? Okay. That's I can't. That's just
doesn't just
sad.
involve cheating. It also involves thousands of dollars on the line in the form of bounties for reaching certain speedrunning goals. Goals that were so ridiculous.
Oh, I love the ones
that
that I love the ones that have the dumbest excuses.
Unrealistic achievements in Pokemon speedrunning that I've ever seen. So today, we'll be taking a look at the cheater Jodiwee's rise and fall, his response to this entire fiasco, and the aftermath following this situation.
He from France.
To become a world record contender in a Pokemon speedrun, an immense amount of knowledge, skill, and patience is required. Because while luck might be a massive factor in these games, what separates the pros from the noobs is how you handle every single good or bad situation, on top of how skillfully you can traverse the overworld. The cheater Jodiwee did not have any of these factors in check, and with everything we know today, it's quite clear that they had almost no patience for getting good at speedrunning Pokemon. Now, to begin the story of their downfall, we need to go all the way back to January 4th, 2023.
That's the thing. If you're not willing to put in the time to speedrun and shit,
Pokemon speedrunners,
if you don't enjoy the game you're speedrunning as well,
months, Jodiwee actually didn't seem to cheat at all.
Don't cheat.
Just
find something else to do.
They even earned some pretty respectable times in a few obscure categories before moving on to some of the more popular ones. These runs include 7 personal bests in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and 11 personal bests in Pokemon Red and Blue, achieved in the span of 6 months. But after a slow rise in the community, his personal best started coming in at quite an alarming pace once he began to speedrun the most popular Pokemon speedrunning category, Pokemon Red, any percent glitchless. Jodiwee would begin to post screenshots of his split times almost every single day with a new personal best for nearly 2 weeks straight. But not once did a video of any of these personal bests show up publicly.
I will
Suspicious.
Say, not recording when you're starting out is not suspicious. My first game was Red.
Suspicious.
I did runs of that game.
I'm immediately
for
suspicious.
Probably about 4 or 5 months
Listen.
before I one started recording
Listen.
and 2 talked.
In this day and age, you need video evidence, at least 10 witnesses. You need programs to literally watch your shit to make sure you don't have like cheat engines and shit installed. Like you need it all in this day and age.
to anyone in the community. However, I wasn't posting screenshots of all my finish time. It's kind of a difference in mindset there. He clearly wanted people to see that he was progressing. And in that mindset, it's a little weirder to not record or submit any of your actual videos.
But after about nearly 2 weeks of nonstop personal best, one of the moderators of the speedrunning Discord did eventually ask, why haven't you uploaded any of your runs to speedrun.com?
I don't remember my headspace at the time, but I probably saw this guy posting. This would have been like his 7th screenshot posted in a week and a half or something like that. And I checked online as like, he hasn't posted any of these. And it's like,
I also love how gossipy the speedrunning community is.
They apparently didn't have the hardware to do it yet and couldn't run on emulator since their computer sucked. So they grinded offline until they could get their hands on a
can't
Game Boy
run
Player
on
attachment,
emulator.
not expecting to get these crazy times.
Excuse the fuck out of me. Excuse the fuck out of me. Hold fucking on. What? Hold the Y'all, I'm getting a migraine. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. No. Alright. Okay. I know I like to joke about my potato machine that I have right now, but let's go back in time to when computers all had that ugly eggshell look. Alright? You could run emulators on those big ass boys, alright? I was running emulators on cheap ass laptops that weren't meant for gaming. You could run a Game Boy emulator on anything. Hell, in this day and age, you could probably have one of them fancy ass fucking TVs on. You know how everything can have like a screen on it these days? Whatever has a screen on it. Everything has a screen on it. Fucking your toaster can have a screen on it, and you could run a fucking emulator on there. This is gonna piss me off, ain't it? This is gonna piss me off, ain't it? Oh boy.
But the thing is, this response makes zero sense if we take a look at one of his very first submitted runs a couple of months before this message, because Jodiwee's very first speedrun was recorded, submitted, and done on a Nintendo DS emulator. And according to many of the experts in the Pokemon speedrunning Discord, the emulators for Nintendo DS have easily proven to chug way more than the speedrun approved Game Boy emulator, Gambate. Even running Discord itself takes up more resources than the Gambate emulator, meaning this could have potentially been the moment he was caught red-handed.
It's early, nothing was ever going to be done about it.
Yeah, for sure.
With just that. And like every once in a while there'd just be something else weird coming up, like someone who asked him for his red splits, and he's like, oh, I don't save my splits. And it's like, okay, that's weird. Like, why? I think we have a pretty good idea of why now, but at the time, you can't just.
I love how one of their titles is lead investigator. Like they have their own fucking
With Jodiwee not submitting any recorded
unit.
runs, this meant that there was no hard evidence against him, which let him slither even further into the community to the point where he would earn the trust from people around him to make his runs believable. And with everyone's trust secured, it became the perfect time to claim their first cheated world record speedrun in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Any % Manipulous. The rules of this category are that you're not allowed to use RNG manipulation.
I've noticed
whatsoever.
that if you're able to get by with it, if no one
it's essentially
who is in the speedrunning community notices when you first start out doing the cheating,
Pokemon, NPC movement patterns,
and you
the
get
chances of finding
in
a
the
shiny
community,
Pokemon are all governed
and you
by
get trusted over time.
generators. Players can exploit this
It's like
by
unless someone's
manipulating the
literally
date and time setting to control the outcome
taking the time out of their day to investigate every
Pokemon traits
speedrunner,
and eliminating randomness from the equation. But because this
they're gonna get away
category
with it for a
disallows
while.
RNG manipulation, players will be at the mercy of random encounters, the stats and natures of your Pokemon, and most importantly, a randomly generated hidden power. The TM for hidden power is received quite early on in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, and is considered to be the holy grail of all Pokemon moves when it comes to speedrunning the game. The way the move works is that its typing and base power are determined by the IVs of your Pokemon. For speedrunning purposes, hidden power grass, water, ground, fighting, and steel are easily the best ones since the first gym contains rock-type Pokemon, which is a type that heavily resists and can easily overpower the fastest Pokemon to use for this category, Chimchar. Without a good hidden power, fighting extra trainers in order to evolve Chimchar is almost certainly required to beat the first gym optimally. But considering how slow this strategy of evolving is, it's not really an option if you want to obtain a world record time in this category. And to emphasize to you all how brutal resetting for a good hidden power is, runners of the Manipulus category won't know until at least a minimum of 20 minutes have passed whether or not
I would
they
want
had
to
a good enough
speedrun
hidden
games in the
power.
future,
And grinding for this
but
hidden power is not something
I know it would
Jody
have to
was
be a
willing
game
to
I
do. What he
would be
wanted
obsessed
instead
with
was results
and
that
wouldn't
he
mind
wasn't getting,
resetting
and
all the
decided it was time
time
to take RNG
or
into
playing
his
all
own
the time.
hands through splicing. The act of splicing is when you take apart multiple sections of a speedrun, put them together to create a much faster
'Cause
run,
it takes,
then
like,
pretend the splice
dedication.
run was done in a single instance of play. This method of cheating is quite common, and exactly how Jody we obtained a Pokemon Diamond and Pearl 80% Manipulus speedrun of 101.19. Which by some miracle beat the world record by exactly 1 second. Slight suspicions did arise during this time, but unfortunately for the verifiers of this run, Jodiwee had now integrated himself into the community as someone who could likely reach these times thanks to a few more submitted runs on the leaderboard. And with nothing crazy weird on the surface, the run was accepted as the new world record without a hitch, awakening a monster inside of Jodiwee, since he was able to get away with what seems to be his first cheated world record time.
The cheater has
From
been
here,
unleashed.
Jodiwee would begin to shift between 6 different categories over the span of 3 months. And even though these categories played pretty differently, with the times he was slowly posting for everyone to see, it truly seemed like he might have enough skill to at least pick up and play near a top level. But this was all a sham to make his next faked world record seem believable. Starting off with a 4-day grind for Pokemon Red 80% world record, a 1-day grind for the Pokemon Yellow 80% world record, and a category killing world record in Pokemon Blue No Save Corruption speedrun. All of these runs were eventually proven to be cheated, and at the pace Jodiwee was submitting these times, it actually did seem a little suspicious to certain private circles within the community. But accusing someone of cheating in a community that hadn't had a notable cheater in nearly 10 years was a hard thing to do when there wasn't really much evidence
noticed, 'cause
supporting
I've watched
this claim. It was
more
all
than a couple of
completely circumstantial. The guy
other
did
videos from other people on different categories of speedruns and shit, and I've noticed it's there's been more than a few where there was like overwhelming evidence, and it gets ignored, like it gets brushed aside, and then years later it's brought up again by someone else that did their own investigation and found even more bullshit cheating evidence, and it's like finally eventually someone pays attention, but then it gets asked like, this was brought up like years before and you ignored it, like what the fuck? Suspicious.
did love flaunting around his screenshots instead of footage after all, and those screenshots can only get you so far in proving that someone cheated. But soon enough, the proof that Jodiwee cheated would come to the community faster than he could supposedly pull off these incredibly fast times, as he was about to make the 2 biggest mistakes that eventually got him caught. His first biggest mistake was trying to fake a top time in Pokemon Sapphire 80% glitchless. When we take a look at the timeline between Jodiwee's last PB and the very first run he ever set in Pokemon Sapphire, you'd find out that Jodiwee was supposedly able to pull off a 2-hour personal best in only 4 days, earning him a spot in the top.
Hold on, it might be me. Like I said, because my internet's been acting funky the past couple of days. Or it might be OBS or I think it's okay though. Knock on wood. Alright, OBS seems to be normal. Internet seems to be fine.
Top 10. This was shared with the community once again through another
The internet
screenshot
might
with no
have
recording
just like
attached
dipped
to
or
it.
something.
And in order to dodge anyone from asking for proof of this time, he conveniently claimed that
Yeah, it was
OBS
either
had
OBS or
crashed
my
in the
internet
middle of
dipping.
recording his run. But the proof for this specific personal best didn't actually matter, since we didn't have to wait long for him to produce an actual run for everyone to look through. Because not even 4 days later, Jodiwee posted a recording of a speedrun that put him in second place and was only about 5 seconds behind the world record.
I found no fewer than 3 separate instances where he healed in very stupid situations, one of which right before Champ cost him world record. Side note, we're now pretty confident that the reason he healed there was because he was too fast in his splicing, and he didn't want to get world record, so he had to heal to slow down enough to have it go under the radar. When he ran Sapphire, he did that on his DS. He loses about 8 seconds over the course of the run due to frame rate differences. And if you account for those 8 seconds, his run was world record.
This type of speedrun takes months of dedication to get good at, and even more skill to beat the world record. But even at the most basic level of speedrunning Sapphire, one of the very first things a speedrunner will learn is you need to walk up to and talk to your mom before you leave town.
He just walks straight up and his mom goes and talks to him. And that's not only slower, he had gained an extra 7 steps by talking to mom. With the way Sapphire and step counter works, every time you
when
make
it's side
a
by side,
mistake
it's
in
kind of,
steps,
it's
it
so
can affect
obvious.
how the Wingle Manip will come out when you do it.
You claim to have 1,100 attempts. It's like, okay, have you ever watched a run of this game before? You're like 6-7 minutes into the run and you don't know to talk to mom.
I mean, I had never verified a run where someone had talked to mom, so I was confused.
It's like starting up a game of Red, getting through the intro, and then not knowing in what corner the stairs are after doing 1,000 attempts. Like, it's unbelievable.
A
There
little
was no attempt to fix the
suspicious.
step counter, and then he did his Wingle Manip. The corresponding NPC path he saw is not matching to any of the NPC paths that people are normally like trained to see if you practice Wingle Manip.
The likelihood that someone was able to reach a second place time on the leaderboard without this knowledge is quite low, and made this run incredibly fishy. But even if Jodiwee could fake a successful manipulation through splicing, it was quite apparent that he couldn't pull off the pure skill required for all of the mock bike tricks that top runners would know.
The way we do the run to bike manips in Sapphire, you have an 8-frame window if you're doing your movement perfectly in order to run to a certain tile, and then from that point within those 8 or 7 frames you have to mount your bike and then start your movement in order to pass safely. And in every single case within that run, he did not do it within the 7 or 8 frames. So the fact that not a single one was hit, and the fact that he wasn't caught or punished for any of them, that's not necessarily proof on its own. It's more just like wow, like what another level of luck that this run has, that he got lucky enough to not get caught on every single one of these spinners.
But even with all this awful play,
The thing that gets me is that the amount of work cheaters put into like splicing runs or fixing runs, it's like the amount of work you put into that you could have put into just doing normal speedruns without the cheating. It's like you put more effort into cheating than actually speedrunning the game. That's what gets me.
and pretty good luck, the moderators still didn't have enough evidence to conclusively say that his runs were cheated quite yet, which unfortunately left verifiers no choice but to accept his Sapphire run onto the leaderboard.
I would just think, if
That would be annoying.
If the roles were reversed, the worst thing I could feel is if someone accused me of cheating when I was doing everything legitimate. I didn't want to do that to someone else.
And Jodiwee would go on to cheat again and again and again. But this time, he would take cheating to the next level by going after a bunch of gold multiple times that were tied to bounties. Bounties are essentially a reward of some kind given to community members when they reach certain speedrunning goals. For context, in this situation, there was a bounty set at $2,500 for having the Pokemon Red Manipulus world record by the date of February, which, as you may have guessed, he managed to cheat together a time good enough to do this only
Blind
4 days
speedrun
after
cheaters.
getting his top 2 time in
So shit for
Pokemon
getting
Sapphire.
1,000
The
things
interesting
wrong.
thing about this situation is he actually reached out to the person who set
It's
up
just
these
crazy.
bounties a day before his Sapphire run went
Because I feel like
asking them if the runs
I just
for these
feel like
bounties
the
could be
cheaters are
performed
putting in more
offline in order
work
to
for
plan out
cheating
even
than the
more
actual
splice runs.
speedrunning.
The even worse part about the bounty for
That's-
the Pokemon Red Manipulus category is that it had already been claimed by PokeGuy early this year, which could have stolen his opportunity to claim the money if no one else achieved this by February. But Jodiwee didn't care and would post the time to the leaderboards, have it get verified, then move on to the most ridiculous bounty and speedrun times that he could have gone for. At this point, you could tell that Jodiwee was incredibly full of himself, because not only did he fake a sub 1 hour Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Manipulus
Of course they gotta be
speedrun
full of
during
themselves.
a race with other people, but he then had the bright idea to break the hardest world record in Pokemon speedrunning history that was tied to a $6,000 bounty, the 143
Damn.
in Pokemon Red, 80% glitchless.
Well, I'll start out by saying that it is widely believed that 143 will be the last minute break that can ever be achieved by a human, no matter what is found in these games in the future. Red as a game is already, it's almost certainly the most optimized, like, glitchless category across any of the Pokemon games. To make it past
That
you know,
money,
halfway
money,
point,
that
there are like
dollar,
a
dollar.
dozen different fights where if the AI just chooses the wrong move, you're dead. And the reason you have to risk that is because of a Gen 1 mechanic called Red Bar, where if
That's
you're
the
on low
ones that
health,
really
the
bother
game
me.
runs like twice as fast, which means we're
When there's
often
like
just
a cash
one
prize
unlucky
of some
move away
kind.
from dying and losing the run. Even if you're playing perfectly, like, everything comes down to luck if you want a time that good.
As you can see, obtaining a 143 is beyond ridiculous and just outright impossible for someone like Jodiwee to get within a reasonable amount of attempts or time. And time was not on Jodiwee's side. You see, the $6,000 bounty for Pokemon Red 143 was actually split
$6,000
between 2 different bounties. $5,000 of it was set aside for the first person who could get a 144, while the second bounty added a bonus of $1,000 for a 143 alongside it. But that $1,000 bounty had an expiration date of December 31st, which meant Jodiwee only had a single month to get what many believe to be the final minute barrier in the oldest, most popular, and optimized Pokemon speedrunning category to ever exist. And by some Christmas miracle, he had done it live on his Twitch channel on December 26th,
quote unquote live.
2023. This totaled up to
I've seen more than a few cheaters getting caught because they
and $8,500
supposedly do shit
in
live.
the span of 2 months. But this was the moment everything went downhill for Jodiwee. Because almost immediately as the 143 ended, a top runner and moderator of the speedrunning Discord, Wave Warrior, requested that he reset his run on the spot to prove whether or not it was a live run instead of a recording. But instead of providing potential proof, Jodiwee decided to do the most suspicious thing in the world and end his stream out of seemingly nowhere.
He said, "Shut it down. Shut it all down."
Speedrunning history. A screenshot of his 143 splits.
He was like, the entire neighborhood's power went out. I don't know what happened.
And in order to dodge any allegations, he responded saying that he didn't have his chat up during the run and wasn't able to see the request for a hard reset, which was then followed up by a crying emoji saying, "Now I'm sus." And even though he had already dug himself into a massive hole, Jodiwee went on to claim that he didn't have a mic, couldn't turn one on to prove that it was live, while being so busy celebrating alone that he didn't bother to ever pull up his chat.
As soon as that run finished, there was legitimate reason to think that something was up. We started looking up
I'm
his
sorry.
VODs, looking into his past runs.
I'm sorry, if you're doing runs, especially for like money, a cash prize, you need to have a run that's, you need to have a run that's gonna be the least suspicious. So he's over here waving all the red flags. All the red flags. Like he's got red flags in both hands, both feet, one up his ass, one in his mouth, like all the red flags.
Eventually got to a point where it was like there is so much here that if he is actually legitimate, he has done himself no favors for looking like the most suspicious person on the planet. First off, the initial piece of evidence that we caught on Jadiwi was that his sum of best changed in between 2 of his streams. All of the streams in December 25th, 26th have the same layout, and all of the streams on December 18, 19, 20 have the same layout, except for the world record VOD, where everything matches with the earlier session on December 20th. With everything lining up the way it does, it just makes no sense that the run was actually performed live on December 26th. And we know for a fact that it wasn't because he admitted to it being pre-recorded. On the 28th, we got confirmation, but they found the first actual concrete proof that something was cheated.
They actually managed to find something in his very first cheated run in Pokemon Diamond.
Yeah, it's not like he wasn't leaving evidence behind,
Okay,
but
so on the
one
left here,
person
I have
pointing it out on the live
Rubentus's
chat.
Nicholas run, and then on the right I have Gen 4 Static. Now, Gen 4 Static is a program
Just blows up the
that
entire investigation.
allows runners to search for specific seeds with either IV requirements, as you can see here, the ability, gender, all of that. So what I'm first going to do is search for the Chimchar Rubentus got in his run, and then see if I can find that Chimchar and hit it on emulator. As you can see, I'm just entering the IVs. All right, so we search it and we find
the FBI
this
wishes.
one seed. So now I'm going to copy this seed, and
FBI,
using a
police,
Lewis script,
CSI,
I'm going to inject the seed
all of
onto
them.
the
They
emulator
wish.
right here onto Desme.
They wish
as
they
if
had
I
people
were
this
doing the run now.
dedicated.
But basically, in this scenario, NPCs will advance RNG. So if the RNG value is the same, the NPC, like the direction in which NPCs will turn, will match what I'm getting on emulator. So let's first observe what Rubentus gets. He gets up and then down, and that's it from the fat guy. So I'm going to inject the seed, and then let's see if we get a matching NPC result. Up and then down. Look at that. So I can also see what RNG frame his Chimchar is on. So right here, I can see that the Chimchar is on frame 88, and it has the exact same IVs as was seen at the end of the run. Now,
FBI,
let's
eat
do
your heart
the
out.
exact same thing, the exact same searching process, but for Jadiwi's
They
run.
wouldn't know
So
what
I'm
to
gonna
do
search
with
the exact same
people this
requirements. I'm gonna
competent.
search, and there's
This
nothing.
dedicated.
Interesting. So this means that this Chimchar is not possible. There exists no seed that actually hits this Chimchar. This is in itself conclusive proof that Jadiwi's Chimchar is not obtainable through legitimate play.
During this time, Jadiwi had no idea that an investigation was going on, or that moderators were about to reach out to him about the evidence that they had found to see if he would come clean before banning him across all the Pokemon speedrunning servers. But before the moderators reached out, Jadiwi officially announced he was retiring from Pokemon speedrunning forever the day after he got the 143, stating that he had now done everything he'd ever wanted to do by surpassing all of his speedrunning heroes.
I bet you
as well
did,
as a
bud.
story about his life before straight up getting banned across all servers.
So why didn't we do anything sooner? And it's our standards were mostly lax because we had never been betrayed like this before. You're willing to trust people.
Betrayed.
Benefit of the doubt.
The betrayal
this is
of a
happening. We need to
century.
reevaluate that.
Following his ban, it was quickly reported by some of his former friends that he had now posted one more paste spin in response to all the cheating. This paste spin went into more detail about a select few runs that were
World
cheated,
peace in a
even
week
though
with
we
these
now
guys in
know
FBI.
that there were a lot more. He also stated that he didn't actually care about the bounty and was gonna give it to his parents and friends in the community. But if you remember a certain section earlier in this video, it was very apparent that he actually did care about this money, because Jadiwi was the only person throughout the entire community to actually go out of his way to ask for more information about these bounties,
Yep,
nearly
there it is.
stealing thousands of dollars and destroying any ounce of respect the community might have had for
Luckily,
him.
no money was
Jadiwi, in his
stolen
confession,
due to
one,
the
he never
due date.
apologized,
Nice.
And two, He tried to put forward excuses as to why he ended up doing the thing he did. Based on things he said and the way he's done things, I don't think he was capable of not doing it. I think he had to go out on a bang, so to speak, by getting something that most of the community thought was impossible.
Following the aftermath of the entire situation, Jodiwee ended up being banned from speedrun.com, deleted all of his videos, and got rid of his YouTube and Twitch channel. And while he might not have provided much more insight on his cheating or even an apology in his pay spin, he at least managed to provide the community with some of the most hilarious meme-worthy quotes that will last the ages. There's even a t-shirt being made with his 143 quote to truly cement his legacy
lucky is
as
not
a
a crime.
cheater. Thanks so much if you tuned in this far. Consider subscribing to
always-
the channel, and if you want to follow some truly
The-
skilled
you
Pokemon
might-
speedrunners
you might try to
making an
delete
actual impact in the categories Jodiwee cheated in, look no
your
further than the
socials, you might try to
description of this
delete the
video.
evidence.
And many thanks to the folks on screen
But the
right
memes
now
will
who
live
made this
on
video
forever.
a possibility.
Ain't no one gonna forget that shit. Oh man, that was a good one. As much as it sucks when people be cheating when in a speedrunning community, I gotta admit it's entertaining to find out how it was investigated, found out, and the shitty excuses they'll try to give. That was a good one. Let's see, this is by PulseEffects. Go check them out. That was a good one. That was a good one.